Hey everybody, it's Sophie and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we are reviewing, I believe, the last of the Miracle on 34th Street movies.
Thank God.
Yeah, this time I fell asleep about 10 times, so it was...
And you just dropped your notebook.
And I just dropped my notebook.
So that's probably because, I don't know, Santa doesn't like that you didn't like this movie. Because, you're saying you fell asleep because it was bad, right?
It's just I'm sick of it. I'm sick. It's the same, really, basically the same story, but this one was a little bit different in certain respects. And what year was this, Marco? Because I don't have it on my notes. It was 1990 something. 1994.
But the thing is that this movie is not only bad, but it's extra long.
Yes.
This movie's
on and on and on.
2 hours. It is the longest one of the series. And you can really feel it. It was like torture, never-ending torture. It just wouldn't end. And I was like, please, let's get this over with now. Because there's so many just needless changes that they made. And the movie was not entertaining anyway. The casting was terrible. I mean, this movie, I really think that it only has good reviews because people were kids when they saw this movie, and so they have nostalgia for it. That's the only reason. Because this is one of those movies where you look at it and you go, why did they make this movie, Sophie? Why do you think? Well,
money.
Not only money, but because they looked that you had these executives, they're all retarded, and they said, nobody's going to watch the old version.
Which is ridiculous.
Children aren't going to want to watch the black and white movie.
But it's in color.
We have to make the color movie now. We have to make the modern version. We have to update that old movie, that old black and white movie. Nobody wants to watch that except for everyone.
It's colorized. The old movie is colorized. It's been colorized for years. It's like one of the first movies they colorized. People were not on board with the colorization, but for some of these modern people, they can't watch a black and white movie if their lives depended on it. They colorize stuff, and it's helpful. They'll watch it.
There are some really weird people. Like, there was this one guy, and he said that he refuses to watch any movie that is made before the year 1990.
That's ridiculous.
He refuses to watch them.
He's shortchanging himself.
And to that, I would just say, number one, well, that's not the movie studio's problem. The movie studios, they should be making good movies that are like new ideas. Like, wouldn't it have been so much better if they had a new story that they wanted to tell with these same actors, and it's an original story, not Miracle on 34th Street, and instead they just wasted all this money and wasted all this time because we have to cater to the dipshit crowd of people who they don't want to watch the 40s movie. They can only watch the quote-unquote modern movie. It's like, that's a very small minority of people. Most people are grown-ups, and they'll watch the black and white movie. And then the kids, their parents can force them to watch the black and white movies so that they won't grow up into idiots who won't watch black and white movies.
Well,
right?
We had... For both of our kids, we just played the movies. We didn't say anything about them. So both of the kids, Marco and Jim, they watched these old movies, and they just made it. It was just like a part of their lives. In other words, it wasn't questioned. And if it isn't a good movie, whether it's in black and white or color, they're not going to watch it. I mean, that's anybody. If it's not a good story, if the actors aren't any good, etc., you're not going to watch it. You're not going to finish watching. You just say, forget this. Unless you're at the theater and you spend a fortune for the tickets and everything else, you might stick it out to the end.
No, what I would do is I'd just go into another movie. Just walk into another movie.
Well,
like what? I'm going to look up. So you go ahead. I'm going to look up what other movies were playing the weekend that Miracle on 34th Street came out.
Okay, well, anyway, the main people, the three I'm familiar with, is Richard Attenborough played Santa, and he is the guy who hired the Jurassic Park scientists.
Well, I am really disturbed because I did not realize that was the guy from The Great Escape. Safi doesn't either.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's that guy from The Great Escape, that the leader guy. The leader of the revolt. The Roger guy. That's Richard Attenborough.
I'd have to see his picture back then.
I'm getting it.
Okay.
The fuck is this? What is this?
Maybe you just have to look up Richard Attenborough.
Okay. Richard Attenborough. Because I saw that movie and I thought he doesn't look anything like him at all. And
he's older now. He's dead now.
He's one of those people where I just always thought he was an...
God, that's him.
I always thought he was always an old man or something. Because, like, I was like, that's him?
Yep.
The Great Escape guy?
You can tell. That is him. So anyway, and the other two people, Mara Wilson, she's a little girl. Of course, she was in Matilda, so I just call her Matilda. And because I like that movie, and she was really good in it.
And that movie's much better than this.
Yes, it is. And then the other person who's been on TV a lot is Dylan McDermott. I think is it Dylan or Gavin? I think it's Dylan McDermott. The guy, they didn't have Mr. They did not have Mr. Gailey. They had Mr. Bedford. So, but they did have Mrs. Walker, and Mara Wilson is the daughter with the last name of Walker. But no, there was no Mr. Gailey. There was Mr. Bedford, and he was a lawyer, too.
And before we get to what we thought of each character, I just want to mention the same weekend that Miracle on 34th Street, the unnecessary remake, came out, you had the Santa Claus, which I'm not a fan of, so I wouldn't...
Just the Santa Claus?
Yeah, you had the Lion King. I'd much rather watch that.
Well, I like both of those. Okay.
The Professional, which I haven't seen, but it must be good. Leon the Professional.
Oh.
Pulp Fiction, which I hate that movie, but
I don't care for that.
if it was like back then and I'd never seen it, then I would have gone in to see it. And then Forrest Gump.
Oh.
Natural Born Killers, even Little Giants. Time Cop. Shawshank Redemption.
Oh.
True Lies, The Client. Like, there's much better movies to see. So if I was seeing that Miracle movie, I would have said,
Oh.
I'm going into the movie. I would go into Natural Born Killers, probably.
Well, I have no desire to see that movie, but
Why?
you just listed a ton of movies that would be...
Because it's good?
So much... No. There would be so much better and more interesting.
Natural Born Killers is the favorite movie of the Columbine killers.
Oh, wow.
But
how wonderful.
But that doesn't speak to the quality of the movie, because the movie's very good.
Okay.
And
so, anyway, maybe we better just go on with it, because it shouldn't be a really long review.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to talk about that, because, back then, there were obviously much better movies to see. And so I would say for Santa, I kind of liked Richard Attenborough's performance at first, but then I didn't. because he had so many moments in the movie where he got really angry.
You could tell. It was almost like he was angry for real.
Yeah, like the part...
He had a bad temper.
The parts in the courtroom, I really did not like him at all.
No. Compared to all of the other versions.
But it was sad because I really liked him in, like, the first part of the movie. I felt like, wow, this is actually, like, maybe the second best Santa that we've seen. But another thing I didn't like was how he didn't have a full beard. He had, like, a face beard. And he didn't even grow it out like a man.
And he could have done that.
I think his man card should be taken away.
Well, he's passed away, so...
Well, that's no excuse. Right, Safi?
Whatever. So, anyway, another big change, is there's no Macy's in this movie. Because Marco looked it up, and they didn't think it was a necessary remake.
Yeah, that's really funny.
And so they would not allow them to use their name.
That's good.
So they used Kohl's. Now, it's not the Kohl's that we all know. This was Coles.
I thought that was queer.
And so...
You know, they should have made something like Lacey's. Like Laceys.
I don't know.
Why? Lacey's, you know, like the name Lacey?
Yes, I do.
Or Lassie's or something, like, but Kohl's, you associate Kohl's with clothes.
Right.
So like, that was an idiotic thing.
Well, actually, you know, they sell all kinds of stuff at Kohl's.
Mostly clothes, Safi.
Well, they sell toys and...
Mostly clothes.
Marco,
Do you ever see a Santa at Kohl's? Do you ever see a Santa at Kohl's, Safi?
No.
No.
Not at all.
So you don't associate...
And there's not levels of Kohl's either.
Yeah,
at least in our Kohl's, it's only the one floor.
So that defense doesn't work because, you know, I just proved correctly that you don't associate Santa with Kohl's.
Well, I'm thinking about where you got your hair cut the last time. We went to the Kohl's there. I thought there was more than one floor, but I'm not positive. That was like a newer.
No, there wasn't.
Okay, well, whatever.
That's a lie.
So there's no Macy's, and so they call it Kohl's. It's not the Kohl's that we all know. It's a different, made-up one. And the thing about this, they should not have done the movie, because if Macy's wouldn't allow them to do that, they're still working on the premises of having a parade and there being a Santa, and there's nobody else in New York City doing a parade other than Macy's. I mean, this has been going on for years, this parade. I mean, we just went through all of the original and the remakes from 1947 all the way up here, and it's all Macy's. And so here they kind of show a little bit of a parade, and it's just like, I don't know. I just think if they were not allowed to get permission to use Macy's, then they just shouldn't have done the movie. Which is so right away it's odd. So you have the thing with the Santa. The Santa's drinking, and
okay, we're not going to go through it like that. And I wanted to go through the characters.
Okay,
I was trying to at first, and then you went somewhere else.
Okay, go ahead.
The daughter is terrible, Matilda. I don't know. See, this is why I didn't want to watch this movie, because I felt like this is just the ultimate unnecessary cash grab crap. Like, oh, look, Matilda's really popular. Mm-hmm. Let's put Matilda in Miracle on 34th Street. That'll be really popular because everybody likes Matilda. But the thing is that she was not right for this role. She did not do a good job at all. The character was trash. Her mom was even more trash because her mom was not the character at all. I don't know why... This actress is a good actress, and I like the actress. But I don't know why she is cast in these roles where she's like this mean lady character, because she's not mean at all. She's like, like she's not mean. Like she's like average. So like I don't get like why, like, you know, in Monk she played that like weathered, like, slutty celebrity woman, and she was kind of a bitch. And in this movie, she's supposed to be a bitch. And I just don't think of her as a bitch at all. Safi?
I just, she got a part, she got a job.
Oh, is that
And
the excuse?
that's it.
Is that the excuse?
No, there's no excuse.
'Cause what
They
about
just shouldn't have made
your
the movie.
opinion? That's what I'm asking.
just
I'm asking,
thought-
what did
and-
you think of that role, that character, her portrayal of that character? That was the question that I
didn't
asked you.
I didn't like the dialogue. I didn't like the story.
Yeah, I hated the whole romance. I hated Dylan McDermott. Dylan McDermott's character, I don't know if it's just if it's just him as an actor, but he is like a really like sleazy character.
Yeah.
Just the way that he acts in this movie, he's just like really sleazy. And I just picture like he's the type of character where you have a movie where the woman is cheating on her boyfriend and she'd be cheating with him. The sleazy Dylan McDermott character.
Well, see, he was on TV a lot. He may be even on TV now.
I know, Safi. He was in American Horror Story. We watched that and reviewed it.
Yeah, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I think all these other series, these investigative series, and he's very popular on TV. And
He's just not the character, though.
no, he's not. And they wouldn't even let him have that name, which I thought was very odd.
They changed it, and they said something about, like, Bedford is the name of a town and It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
And so they
Bedford Falls.
that's why they named him that. Like,
really?
I don't understand that at all, like,
don't
why they
either.
did that. It's just another bizarre decision about this bizarre, unnecessary crap movie. And then, what other characters would you like to discuss? Well, I would just say, too, they completely omit Alfred from the movie.
Yeah.
They have the actor who played Alfred in the original. I didn't recognize him at all. They said that he played a doorman. I don't know who that is,
The
but...
doorman?
Yeah, which one's that? Because I never...
Well, when Santa came out of the apartment house, maybe it was Mrs. Walker's apartment house, there was a doorman. He asked the doorman to get him a cab.
That was the one... Well, I can't remember when that was, so I wouldn't...
I didn't even notice him.
Yeah, they said that on IMDb, but, like, there's no Alfred, and there's no psychologist. That is a completely... They wrote him out of the movie, which I don't know why the fuck they did that. That was, like,
It's
weird...
like a big part.
Instead of that, we get this whole plot about the competitive shopping place called... what were they called?
I don't know. I didn't write it down, but they were selling a gun that shot out gumballs or something.
Yeah,
And
which is stupid.
and they were upset. They wanted to take away their sales, and they knew the Santa was popular, and he was increasing their sales. They said that, and making them a lot more popular than ever, Kohl's. And so they wanted to do something, and they decided, because he insisted he was Santa all the time, and they wanted to play on that he was insane.
And it was really over the top because
Yes,
the head of this other store, he was like this creepy executive who's sitting like alone in this dark room all the
It was like
time.
a Mr. Potter
Yeah.
from It's a Wonderful Life, only he was younger, but
Well,
still.
you think they were more inspired by that movie than Miracle on 34th Street? Because it seems like they're like that movie, and I don't. So,
yeah, Marco doesn't like It's a Wonderful Life.
no, people watch it too much, and so I can't stand it.
Well, I like it, but I don't want to watch it every single year.
Because I have a photographic memory, so if I watch or if somebody watches something too many times, or if I see something too many times, involuntarily, then I really hate it.
Well, they did have, after they played Wizard of Oz for 1 million times on TV, like at Thanksgiving or whatever, They took that off and they replaced it with It's a Wonderful Life. And so for years, It's a Wonderful Life, I think it's been on NBC. And we would watch it. And now you can just watch it pretty much anywhere, I think. Every year around Christmas, or probably anywhere, certain places all year long if you want. So it's not like it used to be. They don't do that anymore. But
I will say I'd rather watch that than watch this, because this movie is garbage. It's got a couple of good parts in it, but mostly this is so unnecessary. It's so boring. It just drags on and on. The whole plot with the competitive store.
They wanted to set Kris Kringle up. And so they had, what happened, that drunk Santa at the beginning?
Yeah, they get him. They recruit him.
They recruit him to set him up.
That is idiotic as hell.
And they have him follow him, which I think in any ordinary circumstance anywhere, that he was stalking him.
Yeah, he was.
And he was following him, and he had the right to defend himself.
Yeah.
Because he was an older person. He was living, there's no Brookings Place anymore. It's called the Mount Carmel Senior Center. And so he is technically an older person. And they have this younger guy who's drinking, and he's following him. They pay him because they want him to hit him or whatever. And he pretends like when he does hit him, because the guy was right on his heels walking down the street. If somebody was doing that, you would probably get if you have what's that spray that people have? Not bear spray, but the mace. And they probably turn around and spray him.
Well, you know what I would get out?
I don't know.
My pocket sand. Remember that, Safi? Where's that from? King of the Hill? Yeah. I thought, that's actually one of the best, self-defense weapons I've ever seen is pocket sand.
So he got in trouble because he hit the guy. The guy fell down, but it was all an act because he didn't really get hurt at all. He opened his eyes to the people standing near him who were from the opposing shopping place, and he winked. So he wasn't. And then it ended up too, he dropped the charges. There was no charges or anything. And so there was no case. But it didn't matter because it seems like once they do this, and I'm not really positive about the authenticity of this, but once you get called out on the carpet for being a danger to yourself or to others, that you could get committed.
Yeah.
And I don't know about that. Committed for how long, and they make it sound like it's for a lifetime. And I just don't know about the accuracy of that, and it disturbs me because he was trying to defend himself. What if it was a real mugger or something?
And it's funny because, it's so weird how they've managed to screw that up every movie, except for I guess the last one. The
one with the pie in the face.
Yeah. But
that was my favorite.
Even then, him doing that was like a harmless thing. He never would have been treated like he was in that movie for doing that.
No, because the guy was right on his rear end, following him, stalking him, and to me, and that's why I say that, like Marco, it's totally mishandled. I didn't care for that at all.
Well, yeah, they mishandled that every time for some reason. It was such a simple thing and such an easy thing to get right, and they mishandled it. And this also shows too, you could have a good story idea, like Miracle on 34th Street, and then you could get 5 different versions, and 4 out of the 5 of those versions are going to suck. And there's that one version that would be really, really good. And so it's lucky that they made that version in the 40s, because in the 40s, they knew what to do. They knew how to make movies. And then they forgot how to after that.
So.
And then they had this stupid part, too, where Dylan... I'm just going to call him Dylan since he's not Mr. Gailey.
I know.
Dylan proposes to the mom. I thought that was stupid.
And he had a beautiful ring and a beautiful red velvet case. And and they really didn't even have that much of a relationship. It drives me crazy.
And it was just bad and so dumb and so forced.
It just wasn't right. And her Christmas wish in this version is she wants a house, and there's a picture, but she also wants her mother to be married, and she wants a baby brother. So
yeah. So Santa Claus had to.
You're not going to believe what happened.
He had
you haven't seen this version.
He had to impregnate the mom, and then pretend like Dylan did it. No. That would have been funny. That would have been really funny.
What happened after the trial?
The Rob Zombie version.
We haven't even gone over the trial.
The trial is the worst part. Can we agree on that as well? God. The trial is the worst trial out of any trial movie I've ever seen.
It was terrible.
They ruined it.
I don't even know what it was. It was a hearing, like they said, but it seems like it seemed like public people could go, and maybe the press. So it was an open hearing, and
they wasted all these great actors too. Like, I think another actor that I really like is the prosecuting attorney.
He was mean.
He always plays like a jackass, evil character. He was in I think he was the mayor in Pleasantville, and then he was in Breakdown as the bad guy in that. And he's a really, really good actor. And the judge, he's a famous actor.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
He's very good, and they wasted these actors, and they made shit. And the trial is so bad. It's like, how did you fuck that up? And also, I'm really pissed off too, because they have taken away both of my favorite scenes from almost every version of this story. Like, they took out the part where Mr. Shellhammer gets his wife drunk. That part is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
They took out the scene where the son testifies against his father. Instead, in this version, it's his wife. They took that out, and it's like...
And it really didn't work, I didn't think.
Yeah, why did they do that? Why did they just suck so badly?
And then, oh God, the prosecuting attorney never really brings any, in all the other versions, I don't believe that he ever brings any witnesses in. And so, but this guy brought in 3.
Yeah.
The first one was some kind of religious witness who said Saint Claus isn't really used that much by the Catholic Church. Or I can't even, because I've never heard anything about any.
I was zoning out.
And then that was one witness. So that's like disputing his relevance to people. And then the second witness was like a military person who has who goes up to the North Pole for, some kind of military operations, annual military operations. And he said he'd never seen any type of building or animals or any kind of structure up there that would relate to the North Pole as a Santa village or whatever. He's never seen anything like that, and he's scoped the whole area.
Which, number one, I would say to that, well, why would Santa Claus want his workshop to be discovered by authorities?
Yeah, I know.
Why would he want that?
I was thinking that too. I thought that was ridiculous.
Like, that's a stupid thing. And number two, I think actually you could make a really good horror movie. I just came up with it. You could make a horror movie where people go to the North Pole and they go there and then...
disappear?
No, and then they come across Santa's workshop, but he's evil and all the elves are evil, and so they start attacking them, and that would be really creepy and cool. Like a North Pole horror movie with the evil elves and trying to kill them. I don't know. That'd be cool. Right, Safi? I mean, it'd be
Yeah,
better than
like
this.
And so, and then, now you see Richard Attenborough in all these. He has temper, and in the trial, you could tell by his face is almost like either he's a really good actor, which I guess he is.
I think he is.
But he really showed his temper though.
He has outbursts.
And he looks really angry.
Kind of like whenever I, give really good arguments and Safi has her little temper tantrums.
Not really.
Like when I talked about Fargo, the recent Fargo episode, and she said, "Stop ranting and raving."
Well, you were ranting and raving.
Even though it's a really bad episode, stop doing that.
Yeah, well, I meant it. So anyway, so he jumps up and he said, it's invisible.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that wasn't good or helpful.
That was really bad.
He's not supposed to talk either, so that was, he could have gotten kicked out for contempt of court or whatever it is when you disturb, when you're doing something you're not supposed to, which is what he was doing. And then, and Mr. Bedford, Dylan, sorry, he, said, "I'm the lawyer here. Let me be the lawyer." And so then the last witness the prosecuting attorney brought in was a reindeer. It was a beautiful reindeer. I mean, that was really cool. And he said, "Okay, if you're really Santa, you can make him fly." And I thought, and Santa says, "I don't do that until Christmas Eve." And so everybody just laughed and he said, "Okay, I'm done. What is it? I rest my case," or something like that.
Well, I thought another thing that was stupid was that both sides only asked him one question, and that was, "Do you believe you're Santa?" That was the only thing either of them asked him.
And this was the best. I think this was the best one, or I might be thinking about Mr. French, and the last one we saw was that, "I'm comfortable with who I am."
No, that was the last one,
Okay,
Safi.
I liked the way they did his.
That was the good movie.
That was
This is the bad movie.
Well, I don't remember what he said. It was kind of mealy-mouthed. That's all I have to say then.
The one in the last one, he said to the psychologist, I am proud and I know who I am, and that's why you're upset about it."
Yeah.
So
I really like that because that's very realistic.
Yeah, that was
to
cool.
say something like that.
That was a good Santa Claus. And then the stupidest thing of the movie, something that I felt like was so bad, I have no idea why people could like this movie after they pulled this shit. Instead of doing the post office thing, which is like, look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But instead of doing the post office thing, they do this really idiotic, cringeworthy thing where Mr. Gailey Dillon looks at a dollar bill, or looks at his money because he's going to bribe the judge. That was another idiotic, stupid-ass fucking thing.
No, that's what I thought it was.
He was going to bribe the judge.
And I'm like, you can't do that.
This character, like, they really fucked him up. And then he looks at the money and it says, "In God we trust." And so basically he uses the idea that if people could believe in God, they could believe in Santa too.
That's right.
And
actually, I agree with that. You can't see God. God doesn't appear before you. And Santa is hidden away and works secretly. So if you want to believe in Santa, you should be free to do so.
But I just thought that is the stupidest thing because, it's so like, it's not an
It's very ethereal or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like the post office thing where, legally he is Santa Claus because the mail was delivered to him at the courthouse.
And this is, this is a court. This is the law.
This is
that would apply more to have the post office. It would apply more to the case. You're talking about a legal. This is supposed to be a realistic legal hearing
But
about competency.
It's not realistic at all.
No, God, not even close.
And I just feel like that was the ultimate FU, was the that whole thing.
So of course the judge, we have the political thing, and the prosecuting attorney, I think he knows. I got the fact that he knew the owner of the opposing.
Yeah, he did.
Store chain, and that he was trying to help him.
Yeah.
And that so it was. I thought that was going to actually come out, because that would have been more realistic, and that would have been to go with the story. They don't even talk about that. It's not brought up again. But
no, at the end, the owner of the other store, he's in the dark room, and he talks to his two lackeys, and he says, like, we failed, and then I still don't believe he's Santa Claus. He's not Santa Claus. And then the other two, the goons, they reveal that they do believe, and it's like,
had buttons.
That was really out of nowhere.
Pinback buttons.
Stupid.
Which was. Ugh.
That was, and they had something weird too, where on the buttons they had like a star, like you put on the top of the tree.
I think it said "I believe" or something, right?
It said "I believe," but underneath it had the star, like that you put on the tree. And I just thought, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Well, they made this big campaign about "I believe," and they had all these people. It was like actually the New Year's Eve celebration in New York City, where you have all these crowds out in the street, and they have the ball drop, and it was like packed solid with people and going, I believe. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, it's like, I believe in, if Santa's real, then Santa can make it so they never make a miracle on 34th Street again, because we don't want it at all.
Yeah, so anyway, so the little girl, like I said, she wants the house that's in the picture, and she still likes Chris as a person, because he's so nice, he's so good, and he laughs with her and treats her very respectfully, and she actually yelled out in court, which is a big fat no-no, and to get a contempt and being kicked out.
And there was a really unrealistic thing, too, where she ran up to the judge and was able to hand the judge a letter.
Well, no, she handed him a Christmas card she had made.
Yeah, the card, but...
And in the card, it had the dollar bill with "In God We Trust" circled. And the judge looked at that, and then he understood the message and said, you're going to get your dollar bill back. And then he said the thing about, if you can believe in God, you can believe in Santa Claus. And if he thinks he's Santa Claus, and that's all well and good. But then, after this, she's waiting for a wish, and she gets up in the morning, and, there's nothing on the tree except there's a Santa face ornament, and it starts glistening and glowing, and her mother is standing behind her, and it's her wedding ring, because the night before she got a note, and he got a note, Mr. Bedford, to meet at this beautiful, either a Catholic or a Episcopal church. It was huge, and they're to meet there. And the organist, when they both get there, they go up to the pew or the altar, I guess, where the priest is standing, and they're looking at each other, and they said, "Did you set this up?" "No." "Did you set this up?" "No." And so he said, "Why are we here?" And then the priest holds out his hand, and he's holding that wedding ring that Mr. Bedford had given. What happened was he had asked her to marry him, and she said no. And then he gave the ring to Chris. Well, Chris stopped by and gave it to the priest. And so he had the box open, and they said, "Oh." And then somebody plays this beautiful organ that's there. It plays the wedding march. And And so they get married. They don't actually show it, but they get married. And so the next morning, she's standing there. The ring is glistening and glowing off of Santa. And Mara turns around and she says, "Oh my God." And here comes Mr. Bedford. And they're both wearing their beautiful long robes. And they say they got married. And then, I don't know how they go to this house. How did they manage to get to that place? How did the direction to go there?
I have no idea.
I don't think they showed it.
I don't know.
So they're magically going to this, it's not magic, but they're driving to this, it's a cab.
It's not magic.
The cab is taking them to this place, the house that's in that advertisement that the little girl had, and it's all furnished with a tree that's lit with presents and food on the table, which is a totally big departure from all the other movies. And it was way over the top. And so Mr. Shellhammer's there. You remember him? He works with Mrs. Walker. You really don't see him very much, so I wasn't sure. I watched it a few times because I didn't remember. They hardly showed him at all. He doesn't really play that significant of a part.
No, he never gets his wife drunk.
No.
Or anything.
No, we never even see his wife. So he says, guess what? Because of what you did, or what Santa did for our company, everybody got a bonus this year, and this bonus will be a very helpful down payment or something for this house. You are looking for a house, right? And they're like looking at each other, and they go in, they see all this stuff, and then I don't know what he said, but anyway. And then after it was over and they saw the house, and the little girl says, this is what I wish for, and there's just one more thing that I wish for, but we'll see if that happens. It might take a while or something. And the mother said, well, what's that? And she said a baby brother, and that was how it ended.
Yeah, so it's like get to work, new parents. And so anyways,
that was just too much, over the top for me.
The whole movie was just too much because it went on and on.
I fell asleep 10 times.
And now you're going to have to watch 2 other movies.
Yeah, Marco does this to me, and look for something that I misplaced, or I thought I'd already sold it. So I'm going to check some books, but anyway, so that's it. And my suggestion to you people, don't watch this movie. Watch the original. Watch the version with Mr. French. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, go back to the 70s. Have some Black Forest cake.
You can see Roddy McDowall, who's one of my favorites because he's just so great. He just can do anything, and he's just very entertaining, and he also, because everybody liked him, they enhanced his part for the movie, and then instead of bonking somebody over with a very heavy cane, it is dangerous, he hits him in the face with a pie, and a big piece of pie. I don't think it was a whole pie. And that, to me, that's a lot. If you want to make things safer, more family friendly or whatever, I think that's a lot funnier and a lot safer than a big fat cane.
For the food review, we actually have the same review.
So I'll let Marco say what it is. It's just, he was right on target though with it. Because I'm thinking, like, this is a movie we both felt that didn't need to be made.
Like Wonka.
And apparently Macy's.
Wonka was better though.
Want it made.
Wonka was a lot better, just so you guys know.
Well, that Timothy Chalamet or whatever, he is really good.
No, he's not. He sucked in the movie, but it was still a lot better.
Actor.
No, he's not.
I think he is.
No, you're a liar.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's continue.
You
on
need to
with our
distinguish good acting and then somebody who you think looks good. Like, those are two separate things.
review.
Right?
Whatever, Marco. I'm not going to argue about Timothy Chalamet. So,
God, that's fucking cringeworthy. Okay, so this movie, one of the things that we have for our terrible Christmas dinner, probably one of the worst meals that we eat the entire year.
and we have to eat it again on somebody's birthday.
It's the worst thing ever.
Well, it can
We don't even eat all the elements.
That
There's
was
there's
the
no
problem.
there's no attempt to modify. There's no attempt to like improve on the things that are terrible. It's just you have to suffer through this terrible meal. And so one of the gross elements of this terrible meal is we eat two kinds of bread, and one of them is called the limpa bread.
And that goes with the
And
regular meal,
It is
dinner meal.
it is basically like bread that's flavored like licorice,
Yeah, aniseed.
and it is one of the worst things on the planet.
It's
And-
just fair. I've never cared for it that much.
I've never liked it. The only way to like it really is to put a bunch of cheese and lingonberry jam on it. That's the only way you can attempt to like it, is because you're covering it up with things that actually taste good.
Yeah.
But Safi made it a couple days beforehand, or no, was it Christmas Eve?
Maybe.
Or
Day
no,
before Christmas Eve.
yeah, the 23rd.
So that's what. See, we have our big meal on Christmas Eve. That's the tradition. And then Christmas Day, either we have, in the past, we've had a completely different meal, or we just have this and maybe add something. This year we just kept it all. Christmas Eve dinner is just like leftovers every day. So, for several days.
And so on Christmas Day, we noticed it tasted like usual, kind of like it was bitter and gross, and it tasted like licorice, right, Safi?
Yep.
You know, it was what you expect.
Yeah,
But-
I tried my best. We don't have any bread hooks.
But what happened, Safi?
So I hand it just like they would do. A lot of people do. They hand make their bread. They don't have bread hooks.
But what happened after we had already made the bread, and we're just gonna eat the food, and for Christmas Day, you could quote unquote enjoy yourself and do what you wanted to do. But what happened, Safi?
Well, the other guy, my husband, decided we had to make limpa bread again because he thought it was awful. He didn't think it was good enough. So he got a completely different recipe. And the problem is, now we've had this every year, this limpa bread. Now, we haven't made it every year. We usually buy it from someplace. We were trying to save money and, make it ourselves. Why not?
Which it turned out to be a waste of money because you made two breads, so
Right.
it's a waste of
So
money.
he decided, this is not a sweet bread. You don't eat a sweet bread with your dinner. We make another. Marco was talking about another bread we make. We make it's called cardamom bread, and it's like it's a twist like a braided bread. It's about it's over 12 inches long.
It sort of tastes like those twist donuts that you get at the store that are
Right.
just the braided donuts with the sugar on it. But the
Right.
twist is it has cardamom in it, so it tastes like that as well.
And we make two of those.
Yeah.
And Marco actually did a lot of the.
I made it myself,
Right.
and it was good.
And so
but
we
what
have
did you
that
do?
for breakfast the next day.
So
on
what did you
Christmas
do?
Day.
We're talking about the limpa bread, not the
So
cardamom
then-
bread.
We come back, and he doesn't like the limpa bread that we made, so he decides to make another one. So that means you don't just make one, you make two. So he made two more, but they were sweet breads.
Yeah.
We've never had a sweet limpa bread to eat with our dinner.
They tasted completely different.
Yes, they did.
It didn't
Yeah.
even taste like it had licorice in it. It just tasted like sugar.
It had molasses and brown sugar. So you know that it's going to be sweet. There's no avoiding it. and it had orange peel, and then it had anise, and
it wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't necessary. And so that's why I think it's the perfect food rating for this movie. And it's so good that Safi even agrees, is because it was totally 100% unnecessary.
And when you make bread,
it was not good.
It takes hours because you have to let it rise like twice.
Yeah, so on Christmas Day, that's what Safi did.
Yeah.
While I was doing videos.
Half the day spent making another limper bread that does not go with the meal.
The big waste of time.
Yeah. And so anyway.
Like this movie.
This movie didn't have to be made. It was like our second limper bread. There's nothing against Swedish culture or anything. We did not have the beans. There's a special kind of brown beans that you make. It really isn't that hard, actually. And you just follow the directions. And I said something about it. He didn't want to make it. And then we had herring, which I love. I love pickled herring. Pickled herring's really good. And we have pickled beets, but we just buy that in the store. It's in a jar. But the pickled herring, the herring came here. It was not in a refrigerated. Anything we've got is in a refrigerated bag or a box with dry ice.
And it was rotten.
It was not. It was warm. And I thought, and it was brown. And so I wanted to put it in the freezer, but maybe that's too late because I don't know how long it was warm. And there was no dry ice. I think it was just in a regular box or something. And this was like, maybe a week and a half before Christmas Eve. So, I mean, it was in the refrigerator for that long.
And so we didn't eat that either. So, but anyways, I don't know what that has to do with the food rating.
But, I mean, the dinner was not, it was abbreviated.
Well, it's exactly what I expected it to be, which is terrible and awful. I'll never make it in the future because it's so terrible. And there's no modification made. There's no attempt to, actually make it a good meal. It's just, you have to suffer on Christmas because tradition. And it's that's not right.
Yeah, so anyway, I was so bummed out that we had to remake the bread because I thought it was just a big waste of time.
Well, you didn't have to. You voluntarily did it because you're a loser, so.
No, I was just trying to be nice.
No.
Well, yes. And anyway, it's over. But that's what this movie is, though. And Macy's agrees with this because they wouldn't allow them to use their name.
Yeah.
And I would have just stopped right there and figured out something else. I would have had a backup or something.
Yeah, make an original movie with original ideas and an original script.
Yeah. Well, I guess they pretended like they made an original script by
No, they didn't.
adding all these weird over-the-top things. So anyway, that's it, everybody. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.